All right, so first thing we're going to look at here is solving simple equations. So we'll just start off with some just basic information here. So anytime any term or number moves across the equal sign, we have to perform an opposite operation. Okay, so what I like to tell my students is anytime you have things that are on opposite sides of the equal sign that you're trying to move together, that's when we know we're doing our opposite operation. So the opposite of addition is subtraction, opposite of subtraction is addition, and then opposite of multiplication is division, opposite of division is multiplication. Okay, an example of multiplication, because this is kind of one of those things that sometimes gets looked over. If we have like 3x equals 9, this part right here is multiplication. Even though there's no multiply dot between them, 3x is 3 times x. So my opposite operation to get rid of that would be divide by 3 on both sides. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind as we're moving forward here. Okay, so let's just go ahead and look at a few examples here. So number 1, I see x minus 3. Excuse me. That's subtraction. So I want to do the opposite operation and add 3 across the equal sign. Sometimes we really like to see a line down the equal sign that helps me visualize if I'm on the same side of the equal sign or opposite sides of the equal sign. So on opposite sides like this, I have x left over. That's gone. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. And that would be my final answer because x is by itself. Number 2, I see y plus 2.8. That's addition. So my opposite operation would be minus 2.8. Minus 2.8. Okay, so that's gone. Don't get tripped up over here. This is my number 2. The number is just 0.9. So 0.9 minus 2.8, what would that be? That would be negative 1.9. Okay, so negative 1.9 equals y, and y is by itself, so that is my final answer. Let's go ahead and slide over to 3 and 4. Okay, so on number 3, I see a negative n over 5. And remember, over means division, so my opposite operation would be multiplication. So if I want to get rid of that negative, I want to multiply by the negative. If I want to get rid of the 5 on bottom, I multiply by 5 on top. So do the same thing on both sides of the equal sign, multiply by negative 5. So my negatives cancel and my 5s cancel, and I'm left with n equals negative 3 times negative 5 is a positive 15. Okay, and then last but not least, number 4, as I reminded you up above, a number sitting right beside a variable like 1.3z is multiplication. So my opposite operation to get z by itself would be divide by 1.3, divide by 1.3, and I'm left with z equals 5.2 divided by 1.3, that's 4. Okay, so that's that. Go ahead and pause the video, try 5 through 9 on your own, and then you can go ahead and start the video back up when you're ready to see me solve them. All right, so just working through these quickly. In plus 3, opposite operation would be minus 3, and I'm left with n equals negative 10. Okay, number 6. G minus 1/3, so my opposite operation would be plus 1/3, plus 1/3. I know fractions are messy, but they're not that bad. Okay, so if I have a negative 2/3 plus 1/3, remember if I have a common denominator, that denominator stays the same, and then I'm just adding or subtracting across the top. So negative 2 plus 1 would be negative 1 left, so negative 1/3. That's what I have there on 6. Okay, let's look at 7. P plus 3.9. Opposite operation is minus 3.9. Minus 3.9. Okay, I'm left with P over on the right. These are gone. negative 6.5, negative 3.9, negative 9, negative 10.4. Okay, there's my final answer there. Okay, let's go down here to 8. Here's number 8. Remember, y over 3 is like y divided by 3. So opposite operation is going to be multiply by 3 on both sides. And then I'm left with y equals negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. Don't be afraid to use your calculator on these, okay, if you need help with the arithmetic portion. Then over here on 9, 0.05w, that's multiplication. Opposite operation is going to be divide by 0.05, divide by 0.05. And I'm left with w equals, I need help on this one. Sorry, let me pull my calculator up. 1.4 divided by 0.05 is 28. Okay, so w equals 28. All right, we're ready for page 2. So this front page kind of covered just the basics of solving these equations. The back side is going to take us through some word problems. So let's go ahead to page 2. All right, so you can see up at the top, we have kind of a 4-step approach to problem solving. We need to understand the problem and kind of figure out what it's asking us. Once we figure out what it's asking us, then we can kind of make a plan of how to solve it. That's generally when our equation is going to come in. After we get that equation, we solve the problem and think about what that means in terms of our problem. And then we kind of look back. Does that answer make sense? Okay. So it says you clean a community park for 6.5 hours, so 6.5 hours. You earned $42.25, and it tells me to write and solve an equation to find out how much you earn per hour. Okay, so how much you earn per hour is going to be my x. So I always wanted to identify that. How much you earn per hour is going to be your x. Okay, so then make a plan. Well, I know my total amount that I earned is $42.25, and I know that I worked 6.5 hours to earn that. So if I were to do 6.5 hours times how much I earn, which is x, that's going to be equal to the total amount of money that I earned, $42.25. And you may have been saying to yourself, well, Mr. Craw, I could have done that in my head. I know I do $42.25 and divide by the 6.5 hours. And that is precisely what we do after we write the equation. We divide by 6.5 hours. Divide by 6.5 hours. Okay, and we get x equals, let's see what that's going to be. 42.25 divided by 6.5. Is that right? It gives me 6.5? Or did I mess something up there? Nope, that's what it is, 6.5. Okay. So then think about, what does that mean? If I said x was the amount I earned per hour, then I would say $6.50 per hour. And then you ask yourself, does that seem reasonable? It does seem reasonable. We probably did it right. All right, go ahead and pause the video. Try number 11, and then go ahead and play the video when you're ready for me to solve it. All right, so number 11 has us looking at the temperature. So it went from 54 degrees at 9 a.m. to negative 4 degrees at 9:27 a.m. Then it wants me to know how many degrees did the temperature fall. Okay, so it looks like we have a high, we have a low, and then it wants me to know, or it wants me to find out how many degrees did it fall. Okay, so we're going to make x be the number of degrees it fell. It fell. There we go. Okay. So really, I'm just finding the difference here, right? So if the amount it fell was equal to the high minus the low of negative 4, that will give me my final answer there, okay? So the key here is knowing its difference, right? If I'm going from one to the other, it's the difference between the two, and making sure to get that double negative in there. So minus a negative actually becomes plus a positive, okay? And now we have x equals 58. So again, think about it in terms of the problem. That would be 58 degrees it fell. So fell 58 degrees. And does that seem reasonable, thinking it goes from 54 to -4? That definitely makes sense, okay? All right, let's look at our next one. Let's look at 12 together. So it says you thought the balance in your checking account was $68. Okay, so you thought it was $68. When your bank statement arrives, you realize that you forgot to record a check. The bank statement lists your balance as $26. So write and solve an equation to find the amount of the check you forgot to record. So we're going to say amount of the check we forgot is going to equal X, right? So the amount of check we forgot is going to equal X. So let's go ahead and find that. So if we thought we had $68 in our account, and I subtract off that check that I forgot, I should end up with my real balance of $26, okay? So $68 I thought I had in my account, subtract off the check that I forgot about, that should end up with $26. Okay, so we actually have a couple steps that we have to do here. Okay, in order to solve this one, I know this looks like subtraction because it is 68 minus x, but the number we're trying to get rid of is 68. Okay, so your temptation when you see this negative sign here is to add 68 to both sides, but that would be incorrect because 68 is actually positive with no number sitting or no sign sitting out in front. So since 68 is positive, I want to do my opposite operation and subtract 68. Okay, so I still have negative x, okay, and then if I do 26 minus 68, I end up with negative 42. Okay, so negative x, remember I have that imaginary number sitting there is like negative 1x. So my opposite operation with negative 1x would be divide by negative 1. And I actually end up with x equals 42. So think about that in terms of your problem. Does 42 seem like a reasonable amount for the check you forgot? It does. If I'm going from 68 to 26, that makes sense. So forgot $42 check. Okay. All right, that's it. So you can go ahead and start working on your assignment.